Chu Xiangqian has been reborn. In this difficult era of extreme scarcity of resources, how can he make the best of his little days? Keywords of the novel. Era. Life is really good without pop-ups, era. Life is really good. Download the complete text, era. Life is really good. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Fighting with the Blind Bear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Fighting with the Blind Bear. In 1959, in the forest farm village of Beishan Commune in the north of Beiping City, there was a earthen house located on a hillside. As soon as Chu Xiangqian opened his eyes, he saw two half-grown children covered in patched old clothes, carrying a porcelain bowl and carefully delivering a spoon to his mouth. My nose moved and I immediately smelled the smell of traditional Chinese medicine. Chu Xiangqian, who had just woken up, was not willing to open his mouth. He didn't know whether these 2.5-year-old children would harm him. Just because he didn't know what kind of disease this traditional Chinese medicine was treating, he had to ask first. Just as my mouth moved, a burst of memories erupted in my mind. It doesn't hurt much, but a large amount of memory suddenly emerges, and attention is entirely focused on absorbing the memory. As Chu Xiangqian opened his mouth and remained silent, the 12-year-old boy holding a spoon naturally fed the traditional Chinese medicine from the spoon into his mouth. In an instant, a mechanical sound echoed in my mind. Ding, recharge successful, absorb treasure gas and automatically converted into 1-point game voucher, novice village opens. After finishing a bowl of traditional Chinese medicine, Chu Xiangqian finally understood his current situation. I have traveled and my name is Chu Xiangqian, just like in my previous life. And standing by the bed, there were two children, one big and one small, the older named Chu Igua, who were the big boys of his second uncle's family. But in Chu Xiangqian's eyes, this kid should look 13 or 14 years old, just over 1.6 meters old, but in reality, he is already 16 years old. The little boy's name is Chu Imin, he is 14 years old and looks even smaller and thinner than Chu Igua. Chu Xiangqian only pondered for a few seconds and knew that he must be lacking in nutrition and hungry. And I am just over 19 years old this year. Last year, I became a lumberjack apprentice in the forest farm of Beishan Commune. A week ago, when I was carrying a bow and arrow with my father Chushan to go up the mountain to hunt wild game, I unexpectedly met a blind bear who had hibernated and left a hole. In order to save his only son, Chushan was about to be chased by a starving blind bear. Despite his own efforts, Chushan roared and urged Chu to run forward quickly, while he drew his sword and turned to meet him. In Chu Xiangqian's memory, he saw his own father, in order to save him, not willing to escape alone. After being knocked down by the blind bear in Chushan, I grabbed a steel fork and roared as I rushed towards him. Don't let the same fork pierce into the blind bear's back, and he was immediately knocked several meters away by the blind bear. If it weren't for going hunting in the mountains with Chu Mountain at the age of 16, the physical exercise would be considered robust, and the warm coat made of wolf skin would have cushioned a lot of strength. This collision may break a few ribs. However, even so, I still felt as if I had been hit by a car and almost fainted from the pain. Watching the black bear pounce on him, without even thinking, he rolled and dodged the bear's big mouth. Chu Shan saw his own son being knocked away and chased by a black bear, and his injuries from being bitten by the black bear no longer hurt. Climbing up, he threw himself onto the back of the blind bear, desperately leaving 2 cuts on him before being bitten by the black bear on the shoulder and thrown away. And the black bear was also seriously injured at this moment, watching Chu move forward holding a steel fork, searching for an opportunity to attack, while also preventing the black bear from continuing to attack Chu Mountain. The blind bear roared a few times, but turned around and ran away. After not seeing the figure of the black bear, Chu sat down on the ground, panting heavily. I rushed to Chu Mountain to check his injuries. After reading it, Chu Xiangqian's face darkened. His father not only fainted from the pain, but also had several bleeding wounds on his body. Simply bandaged the wound for Chu Mountain, and carried his own father on his back as he struggled to walk more than 10 miles from the mountain. Finally, he fainted on a snowy slope only a few hundred meters away from the forest farm village. If it weren't for being discovered by villagers in the same village, even if the father and son hadn't died of blood loss, they would definitely have been frozen to death. After thinking so much about Chu Xiangqian, he instinctively asked Chu Aigua and Chu Aimin, second brother, how is my father? The two children's expressions froze, with a sorrowful expression on their faces, and they hesitated for a long time without replying. Chu Xiangqian also noticed the black handkerchiefs and mourning cloth tied around their arms at this moment. After feeling sad, it doesn't seem like there's much sadness in my heart. It can only be said that although the memory of this body has been absorbed, the protagonist is still the self of the past life. However, as soon as Chu Shan thought that he was trying to cover his escape, he didn't hesitate to turn around and throw a knife at the blind bear. His heart suddenly floated with the idea that if he didn't kill the blind bear, he would swear not to be human. Turning to the wall hanging bows, arrows, and steel forks at home, I saw that both weapons were present. Just as Chu Xiangqian was about to get up, he felt like he didn't have much strength all over. After calming down, I guessed that I had been starving for a long time during my coma, and coupled with the incomplete recovery of my injuries, I even felt a faint fever, which made me feel weak all over. Looking at Chu Aigua and Chu Aimin, he asked, "Have you two been taking care of me all this time?" Chu Aigua nodded hastily and said, "My father and Uncle Jiang went to the city a few days ago to find medicine for you. They also want to bury Uncle as soon as possible, and Uncle's pension cannot come down. Yesterday, they went to the commune again. Let me and Aimin accompany you here, feeding you medicine and some rice soup in the morning, middle, and evening." Upon hearing these words, Chu Xiangqian felt secretly grateful. Fortunately he was not alone. Otherwise, in this cold winter month, with fever, myrrh, and injuries, 99% of people will not be able to survive. Don't be fooled by the fact that the forest farm doesn't need to cultivate land on weekdays. As long as enough wood is cut down and transported to the commune by carriage, the task can be completed and wages and rations can be obtained. But also because the forest farm is located in the mountains, farming is basically a luxury. Logging is also a heavy physical labor. Even if a regular worker has a monthly ration of 44 pounds, there is not enough food to meet the needs of the whole family. Of course, Chinese people naturally have a sense of crisis, and Uncle Heir will definitely have some savings in his hands. But Chu Xiangqian knew that the cost of his father's affairs should also be considerable. "You two go get busy with yourselves, and by the way, let Uncle Heir, Aunt Heir, and Uncle Jiang not worry about me." Chu Aigua and Chu Aimin nodded eagerly, as it was already the end of the year and there was indeed a lot of work to be done. And the two of them, one at 16 and one at 14, have long been treated as half-laborers at home. Just when I went out, I couldn't help but feel a little different from before when my older brother woke up. After the two of them left, Chu lay down for a while before recalling the sound of the novice village opening that he had heard in his mind before. With a thought, he smoothly called out a game interface, and then his body suddenly disappeared and appeared in the newly downloaded game Beginner Village before his rebirth. Lost for a few seconds, Chu Xiangqian couldn't help but get excited. As long as he had a golden finger, no matter what era it was, he would definitely be able to survive and live well. Looking at the systems built at 100 silver coins in the interface, Chu Xiangqian didn't care about the usefulness of the 1-point coupon for the time being. Without hesitation, he walked towards the pharmacy. I spent 10 silver coins to buy a meat bun representing a small blood bottle, and opened my mouth to eat one. I quickly felt my body slowly recover its strength, and even the pain in my chest was slowly healing. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Adding Points. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Adding Points. Feeling the chest injury, Chu Xiangqian, who no longer felt the pain, focused his attention on the seemingly dilapidated novice village. There are pharmacies, restaurants, blacksmiths, armor shops, warehouses, village centers, and more than a dozen low buildings with no signs hanging on them. Immediately, Chu Xiangqian suddenly realized that there seemed to be no NPC in this novice village. I quickly walked in and out of the blacksmith shop and waited for the room, but I really couldn't find anyone. Fortunately, although NPC doesn't have it, they can still buy things from the corresponding store, which makes them feel at ease. Looking at the body data on the character panel, with a physique of 0.8, strength of 1.1, and agility of 0.9. Chu Xiangqian lowered his head and thought, based on the panel data and his 19-year-old body, the normal person's data should be 1 in physique, strength, and agility. Once upgraded, the physical fitness enhancement it brings is a huge advantage in the real world. Looking outside the village, I saw the whole village surrounded by darkness. As soon as I thought of the village, I was blocked by a golden light curtain. Chu Xiangqian, who couldn't leave, couldn't help feeling anxious. He couldn't go out and fight monsters, so he couldn't level up. After looking around, I finally found that there were more than a dozen chickens wandering in the village that looked very similar to the ones I had hunted in the mountains. I originally wanted to try chopping one up, but when I realized that my injury was just right and my silver coins were only 90 points. If I could resist it, it would be fine. If I were to be counterattacked by a mountain chicken, then I would really go to hell. Chu Xiangqian's first thought was to go home and get a steel fork and hunting bow. The skill of archery and hunting is not particularly impressive, at least following the Chu Mountains into the mountains for a few years, my archery skills are still quite good. With a silent leave in my heart, my body indeed appeared at home. Pick up a steel fork, carry a hunting bow on your back, and carry a rocket launcher with 10 sharp arrows. Appearing again in the novice village, drawing a bow and shooting an arrow, it aimed at a pheasant 7 or 8 meters away, looking for grass seeds on the grass with its head down. When the sharp arrow pierced through the mountain chicken and got stuck inside its body, it could still puff its wings and charge towards it recklessly. Chu Xiangqian quickly calmed his mind and drew his bow again to shoot arrows. This arrow was originally aimed at the chest, but unexpectedly hit the head of the low-headed pheasant, instantly eliminating half of its entire head. That mountain chicken just flapped a few times according to its inertia and fell to the ground without moving. With a ding sound, the prompt, experience plus 10, automatically switched to hunter profession, sounded in my mind. It doesn't matter what profession you have, anyway, if you can upgrade and add points, you can far surpass ordinary people. Looking at the experience bar of level 1 and 10 out of 100, Chu Xiangqian finally calmed down. Although we can't leave the novice village yet, we can always find a way. However, before that, Chu Xiangqian, who felt that the big rooster in the village was not easy to deal with, quickly turned around and entered the pharmacy. He gritted his teeth and spent 90 silver coins, buying 9 meat buns. This is when the mountain chicken fell to the ground, hoping to pick up the exploding silver coins and even equipment from the corpse. Unfortunately, reality once again disappointed him, except for the picked-up pheasant, there was nothing left on the ground. I had to carry the mountain chicken back to the pharmacy to see if I could sell it to the system. Fortunately, he was not disappointed this time. A chicken can sell for 10 silver coins. As long as you are careful when dealing with monsters, you should not lose money. At the same time, he was also grateful that he had studied hunting with his biological father for several years. Otherwise, relying solely on the steel fork in his hand would have cost him several meat buns to kill a mountain chicken. Looking around, Chu Xiangqian's eyes lit up and he climbed up the balcony on the second floor of the pharmacy in a few seconds, shooting an arrow at a pheasant more than 10 meters away. Sure enough, no matter how much the mountain chicken tossed around this time, it couldn't harm itself on the second floor. Spending half an hour searching through the entire novice village, taking advantage of the terrain, I once again defeated 14 mountain chickens, upgraded by 1 level, and my experience became level 2, 50/200. Looking at the 1 point of freedom brought by the upgrade, Chu Xiangqian pondered for a moment and decided to first increase his physical fitness. After all, being able to proficiently use the bows and arrows in one's hand and kill 14 pheasants without injury is not the first consideration for strength and agility. Once you get the gun, no matter what monster you are, you can kill it. Adding physical fitness not only increases health, but in reality, it is equivalent to doubling physical strength and endurance. After adding some points, Chu Xiangqian instantly felt a surge of heat emanating from his body, just 7 or 8 breaths. Not only did his body become stronger, but his strength also slightly increased. After jumping a few times and running back and forth, I vaguely felt that I had become more agile. Looking at the character panel, while increasing physical fitness by 1 point, strength and agility also increased by 0.2. This made Chu Xiangqian couldn't help but be overjoyed. He picked up the mountain chicken on the ground and placed it in a storage space with 10 storage compartments, walking towards the nearest meat shop. Just as I was about to sell all 14 pheasants, my heart suddenly moved and I only sold 13 for 130 silver coins. Adding the one sold earlier, there are still 140 silver coins left. The remaining mountain chicken, I plan to take it from reality. If it can be eaten, then I will not lack meat in the future. After estimating the time, it felt like it was only around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Chu Xiangqian didn't rush to leave the game, but instead waited for the village chickens to refresh. Just waited for a while, feeling like it had been 1 or 2 hours, and after wandering around the village several times, Chu Xiangqian never waited for the monster to refresh. I secretly thought to myself, shouldn't it be refreshing once a day? Thinking about patriotism and love for the people, I can only go back to reality first and wait until the evening to enter the novice village to see if it's refreshed. Hanging the bow, arrow, and steel fork back on the wall, Chu Xiangqian went out to look for a moment. After not seeing the patriotic kids, he returned home and took out the pheasant from the storage compartment. Fortunately, everything was as he had imagined. Not only did the game's pheasant come to life, but he could also feel the warmth on the pheasant's body. Turning around, he entered the rough mining-style kitchen built outside and used a small knife to stew the pheasant for dinner. Just as I was waiting, my heart suddenly realized that it's okay for this mountain chicken to secretly eat on its own. If patriotism and love for the people were to be seen, it would be difficult to explain. After all, in the eyes of outsiders at this time, I am still a seriously injured person. In the future, I would like to thank my patriotic brothers for taking care of me during this period, as well as Uncle Air and Uncle Jiang for their help. We will have to wait a few days before that. And it's better to say that you've recovered from your injury, the mountain chicken that came hunting in the mountains. Suddenly, I felt a pain in my finger. When I picked it up, I saw tiny drops of blood coming out of my finger. Chu Xiangqian quickly put the wound on his mouth. Fortunately, the wound was not too big or deep. After spitting out a few drops of blood, I took out a hot meat bun from the storage compartment, representing a blood bottle, and ate it in just 3 to 5 bites. When Chu took the pheasant back into the storage compartment and lay in bed in the room, he was taken aback and raised his hand to look at the wound on his finger. Surprisingly, it did not heal. Also, because I exerted force just now, the wound started to bleed again. However, upon careful consideration, if game items are brought to reality and lose their special effects, it may not necessarily be a bad thing. With a sudden thought, I entered the beginner's village and a steamed bun entered my stomach again. The injury on my finger healed in just a few breaths. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 003 Consider the Future, Seeking to Collect Monthly Tickets, Follow Up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3003 Consider the Future, Seeking to Collect Monthly Tickets, Follow Up. Having determined that his cheat was only effective for himself, Chu Xiangqian couldn't help but burst into laughter. Although I want to recover from my injury, I still need to enter the beginner's village. But this is actually the best result. If you are injured, you can enter the novice village to recover. And what is taken out of the game is ineffective for anyone in reality, thus avoiding the appearance of extraordinary power in the real world. And the increase I gained by adding points was already felt when I left the novice village and returned to reality. What people who have cheats fear the most is that others also have cheats. Chu Xiangqian, who had eaten 3 large meat buns, was not hungry at all. Why not lie down on the fire pit and pretend to be sick? After waiting for a while, the sky had already darkened. Only then did patriotic individuals carry medicine jars and a bamboo basket as they quickly walked into the room. "Brother, my mother heard you wake up and prepared 2 noodles mantou and a bowl of chicken soup for you." Chu, who was pretending to sleep, moved his nose and smelled the smell of chicken soup. While secretly surprised, I let out a sigh in my heart. In later times, chicken soup and chicken would be commonplace. However, in this era, the household's needles, thread and brain, as well as the wine and vegetables during the Chinese New Year, all rely on raising some hens and eggs to supply and sell them to the society. Being able to kill a hen to supplement her nutrition, although Aunt Air did not come to see her, it was already excellent to achieve this level. Thinking of hiding the pheasant in steamed buns, Chu Xiangqian couldn't help feeling a bit embarrassed in his heart. But there's nothing I can do, I want to pretend to be sick for 2 or 3 days first. I ate more than half of the mantou and chicken soup under the eyes of patriotism and people's envy, and constantly swallowing saliva. Put the remaining half of the chicken bowl in front of patriotism and the people, but the 2 boys refused to eat it even after being pushed for a long time. Chu Xiangqian smiled and said, "All right, big brother, I'm just recovering from a serious illness and can't eat too much. If you don't eat, then I'll keep it for breakfast." I thought these 2 boys would take the bowl and share the chicken, but they didn't expect the bowl to actually be taken over. However, the 2 of them placed the bowl on the table in the room. "It seems that I really want to keep the chicken for my breakfast." Chu Xiangqian looked at patriotism and love for the people in surprise, secretly thinking that people in this era are really simple. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he thought to himself, "Good kid, from now on, as a big brother, I will ensure that you have enough to eat." In this era, being able to eat enough is already the biggest expectation in many people's hearts. For families that do not lack food, marrying a wife is actually the simplest thing. Even if you want to marry someone more beautiful, in the countryside, you only need a few yuan and 10 pounds of stick noodles. After chatting with patriotism and loving the people, Chu Xiangqian finally talked about his own father. Upon learning that his father had already been buried by his second uncle and some uncles, Chu Xiangqian initially secretly thought about how he could be buried so quickly. I immediately realized that it was 59 years ago, not to mention operating it like later generations, even burning yellow paper had to come secretly. If you don't bury it early, you might have to go to the crematorium for a walk. It's better to bury it in the ground. After seeing off his love for the people and patriotism, Chu Xiangqian wrapped himself in a fur mat and lay in a fire pit with insufficient heat, thinking that since he no longer had to worry about his own father's affairs, he had to think about his own future. "I can't always stay in the forest farm, this mountain with only about 20 households in total for my whole life. Moreover, this place is only 100 miles away from Beiping City and more than 10 miles away from the 13 tombs. Just thinking about it, you know that in not many years, this logging farm will definitely have to be closed." Just how to enter the city, Chu Xiangqian had no idea for a while. In the future, he can think of many ways to make money from doing business in the eyes of the world, but in this era, doing business is just not easy to find. After thinking for a while, I could only put it on meat in the end. Or rather, the wild game in the mountains. The TV drama characters are like iron, rice or steel, and if the machine repair factory just gets a pig, it can make the entire factory workers have no intention of going to work. There are tens of thousands of people in the steel rolling mill, and in order to ensure the physical strength of the workers, every means is used to find unplanned meat and oil. If the mountain chickens in the novice village will refresh tomorrow, you only need to take out a daily quantity of 15 per month, so don't believe that the unit will recruit you. The next morning, with a faint dawn, the patriotic boy led his 2 nest heads up the mountain and arrived at the earthen house located on the hillside. He knocked on the door and shouted, then built a simple kitchen outside the house to heat up chicken soup for Chu Xiangqian. Chu Xiangqian, wearing a wolf-skin coat and leaning against the eaves, felt more and more that this kid was a real person. But what he didn't realize was that the vast majority of people in this era were actually patriotic, simple, hardworking, and kind. Even some are people who are willing to dedicate and sacrifice without reservation for the sake of their country and nation. For the great ambition of sacrifice, dare to teach the sun and moon to exchange for a new sky. After having breakfast, Chu Xiangqian smiled and said to Patriot, "Second brother, is there enough food at home to eat?" This is actually nonsense. Chu Xiangqian himself knew that in an era where food was restricted to death, having an extra mouth was equivalent to snatching food from Uncle Air's family. Sure enough, after hesitating for a long time about patriotism, I finally said, "It should be enough." Chu Xiangqian recalled a few times and pointed to the fire pit, saying, "Go and get the wooden box from the pit." Patriotic young man has not yet realized that Chu Xiangqian is really probing him. As a descendant, during his work, Chu Xiangqian met many people who appeared to be the same on the surface but secretly the same. Subconsciously, I want to test patriotism again. This personality may not be good, but not taking the initiative to harm others is the most normal way of dealing with things. After listening, Patriotic realized what Chu Xiangqian wanted to do and quickly waved his hand, but within a few seconds, he awkwardly put it down. It seems that Uncle Air's family really doesn't have much food left. Just thinking about it, I know that when my biological father Chu Shan is buried, there will definitely be several banquet tables set up. Even though some guests may bring their own staple food, the cost of a few tables of food and drinks, as well as the cost of burial, is still a significant burden for a rural family. Alright, if you want to go and get it, then go and get it. Patriotic now blushed and obediently went to get the wooden box. Chu Xiangqian opened the box and saw more than 10 scattered banknotes and many receipts inside. To be honest, Chu Shan and Chu Xiangqian's father and son are living a better life than the other 20 or so households. Although the 2 strong laborers ate a lot, they occasionally went hunting in the mountains, and their food was much better than that of Uncle Air's family of 5. Of course, Chu Shan, who is the eldest brother, has also taken care of Uncle Air's family in the past. Take out 3 yuan and 10 pounds of food vouchers, hand them to Patriot, and say, "Second brother, take these to second uncle and second aunt as my rations for the next 10 days. When my injury is completely healed, big brother can earn his own food. As for the money owed to your family, I will gradually repay it in the future." Patriotic nodded hastily, and after receiving the money and receipts, a smile on his face also increased. At this time, the rice is 23.1 jin, the flour is 1.8 jin, and the coarse grains are only 1 jin. If you buy flour for a 10-pound grain receipt, it's only 1.8 cents. If we go to exchange the stick noodles, we can get about 30 pounds. It can be said that just these 3 yuan and 10 pounds of food vouchers can already meet a person's monthly food consumption. But the accounts cannot be calculated too tightly, otherwise even if Uncle Air doesn't say anything, Aunt Air will definitely be unhappy in her heart. I can't just rely on people's busy schedules to help me, but in the end, I have money and food vouchers in my nephew's pocket and still want to take advantage of my uncle's family. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. 004 Upgrade Summoning Hound, Seeking to Collect Monthly Tickets, Follow Up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4004 Upgrade Summoning Hound, Seeking to Collect Monthly Tickets, Follow Up. Patriotic put the money ticket in his pocket and said with a smile, "Big brother, then I'll go back and give it to my mother now." Go, go, go. Chu waved his hand forward and watched as the boy walked out quickly. Just after a while, he ran back and said, "Big brother, my father and Uncle Jiang went to the Beishan Supply and Marketing Cooperative yesterday morning to handle Uncle's pension. That's why they didn't come to see you. Chu nodded forward, but knew in his heart that there was little hope for the pension. Wearing a wolfskin robe, standing at the door watching Patriot run down the mountain slope, all the way into the village. Chu Xiangqian then turned back to his house, closed the door, and entered the novice village. Seeing several mountain chickens leisurely searching for food in the village, Chu Xiangqian's heart, which had been worried all night, finally let go. As long as the game refreshes, whether it's once an hour or once a day, it's hope for oneself. It took less than half an hour to refresh all 15 mountain chickens from the novice village and successfully upgraded to level 3. Experience has also become 0 out of 400. Level 1 is 100 points, level 2 is 200 points, and level 3 becomes 400 points. It seems that upgrading from level 4 to level 5 would require 800 points. Chu Xiangqian continued to add the newly obtained 1 attribute point to his physique, and once again felt that his body had become significantly stronger. The already strong muscles are also beginning to reshape and become stronger. Looking at the data panel, the physical fitness is 0.8 plus 2. Strength 1.1 plus 0.4. Agility 0.9 plus 0.4. That is to say, a little physical fitness can be accompanied by an increase of 0.2 in strength and agility. Chu Xiangqian suddenly felt that his addition was right. I picked up the hunting bow and pulled it, feeling that it was already light for me. Turn around and walk towards the blacksmith shop. As for the 15 mountain chickens, he didn't rush to sell them to the butcher's shop for silver coins. Entering the blacksmith shop, I was about to buy a bow and arrow that could be used at level 3, but I was wondering if the bow and arrow in my hand would be even better than a level 3 bow. After hesitating for a few seconds, my heart suddenly moved. I placed the hunting bow in my hand on the trading window and looked at the displayed selling price of 18 silver coins. I didn't hesitate to buy the bow and arrow worth 100 silver coins, which looked similar in appearance to the hunting bow in my hand. Sure enough, holding the new bow and arrow in my hand not only weighed a few pounds, but also increased the pulling force by 3 or 4 layers, which was exactly equivalent to my arm strength at the moment. With a new weapon, I naturally want to give it a try, but today's 15 pheasants have already been killed by myself. On second thought, why not give it a try in the mountains of the forest farm? If you can gain experience by hunting animals in the real world, then you don't have to stare at the 15 pheasants in the novice village to upgrade yourself. However, when Chu Xiangqian thought about the meat bun representing the blood bottle in the game, which had lost its health-boosting function in reality and became an ordinary meat bun, he didn't actually have much hope in his heart. I just don't want to give it a try, but I feel a bit unwilling. Since it's entering the mountain, if you don't make more preparations, it's just seeking death. Turning around, I went to the armor shop and saw that the light armor that could be worn at level 3 required 150 silver coins. That's when I sold 11 out of the 16 pheasants in the storage compartment. Plus the remaining 40 silver coins, it's just enough to buy light armor. Wearing light armor and moving around a few times is quite fitting, and this light armor is very flexible, making it difficult to make cuts with a knife. It seems that even in reality, there is still considerable defensive power. The defense plus 10% effect that comes with light armor is not reflected in reality. While cursing in my heart, I suddenly saw an extra plus sign on the coupon bar on the panel. Upon careful consideration, Chu Xiangqian remembered that when he first crossed over, he was using a patriotic spoon to feed himself medicine. Suddenly, his mind came to the idea of adding 1 to the coupon, which was a rising tone for the novice village. Trying to click the plus sign, a skill option suddenly appeared on the panel. And because I first used bows and arrows, the game defaults to choosing the hunter profession. Watch the skill of summoning a hunting dog. Chu Xiangqian was overjoyed and didn't even need to think about it. Just click on it, and sure enough, the icon for summoning a hunting dog appeared on the panel. A Lijo red, 80 centimeters tall and weighing approximately 40.50 kilograms, appeared at my feet. Just as Chu Xiangqian was pleasantly surprised, he quickly realized that the origin of this dog was difficult to explain. Fortunately, there was a red dog breed in Laizhou during the Qing dynasty, which was bred by crossbreeding German and local dog breeds in Shandong province. In this era, people can't eat enough and it's reasonable to abandon dogs. Someone asked, saying that when he met the blind bear, if it weren't for this dog on the side, his father and son would have had to get into the bear's belly. I didn't expect the dog to come back, so I adopted it as a hunting dog. After commanding the hunting dog to make various movements and confirming that he could command the hunting dog as he pleased, Chu Xiangqian felt secretly pleased. Leaving the novice village with a hunting dog. While preparing the necessary items for entering the mountain, I gave Laizhou Hong a name of De Zhuang. I originally wanted to seek prosperity, fortune, or blessings, but I just realized that it's a new society now, so it's better to be careful. Wearing a wolf-skin cloak, wearing a wolf-skin hat, carrying a level 3 hunting bow, and carrying a steel fork, he left home. Chu looked forward at the white mountains in the distance and couldn't help but recall the experience he had of walking step by step out of the deep mountains with his own father Chu Mountain on his back. Fear is not fear. Once there is really danger, you can completely hide in the beginner's village. Plus the hunting dogs produced in the game, you can tell from their body size that they are much more powerful than real hunting dogs. But if my biological father had brought 1 or 2 dogs when he went up the mountain, he wouldn't have been noticed by the blind bear touching him close. Unfortunately, the food in this era is too precious. Other families in the village, not to mention raising dogs, do not have many chickens and ducks. And raising chickens and ducks can also harvest eggs and duck eggs, while raising dogs can only be done by guarding the house. Thinking of this, Chu Xiangqian suddenly realized that a hunting dog seemed to be missing a bit. Then I remembered about the golden coupon. Busy searching the room, I quickly saw the porcelain bowl and spoon that Patriotic used to feed me medicine yesterday. As soon as I touched the porcelain bowl, I thought of a ding sound in my mind. Absorbed 1 coupon. Chu Xiangqian was overjoyed and quickly picked up a spoon. Seeing no movement, he immediately rummaged through boxes and cabinets to find all the porcelain in his home. Finally, a total of 5 gold coupons were obtained. He, who has read many novels in his past life, can easily understand that these porcelain pieces should be antiques. Without knowledge of antique appraisal, he couldn't even tell which dynasty these porcelain bowls with unknown bottoms belonged to. But this does not prevent him from opening the character panel and upgrading his hunting dog skills. After using the 3 points voucher, it is indeed possible to summon another Laizhou Red. And 2 dogs, 1 male and 1 female, may give birth to even better hunting dogs in the future. But within a few seconds, Chu Xiangqian shook his head helplessly. No one had anything to eat, and no one cared whether the hunting dog was good or not. With 2 hunting dogs following, Chu Xiangqian finally felt at ease. As I walked up the mountain with my dog, I also secretly thought to myself that after returning from the mountain, I would have to go to Uncle Air and Uncle Zhang's house for a walk. Maybe you can get some gold coupons. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. 005 Revenge, seeking to collect monthly tickets, read after. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5005 Revenge, seeking to collect monthly tickets, read after. If the porcelain bowls in Uncle Air's house are not antique, he must go to the capital to have a look, or even go to work in the city when he has the opportunity. And it seems that you don't need to buy those antiques yourself, as long as you come into contact with them, you can get a gold coupon. However, if you really come across something good and have some spare money in hand, it's good to collect some antiques. In case of any accidents when you get old in the future, it's also good to keep it as retirement money. It's also quite interesting to leave it as a surprise for future generations before one dies and goes to bed. As for making a fortune through antiques, Chu Xiangqian only thought that by the 1990s, when he was already 50 years old, he didn't have that mindset in his heart. For the entire decade of the 1980s, if one still cannot earn a large sum of wealth from God's perspective, then it is better to choose to retire directly. Of course, if he can go for free during a special decade or collect antiques at extremely low prices, he doesn't mind collecting more. In the novice village, there are not only warehouses, but also more than 10 or 20 houses, some of which have places to store. Chu Xiangqian walked in the snow for half an hour, crossed the range of activities of the villagers in the forest farm village, and saw 2 red ears in Laizhou moving, then stared at a snowy slope 20 meters away without letting go. I don't know if Chu Xiangqian's physical condition is 3 times that of an ordinary person, and his vision has improved significantly compared to before. Staring into the distance for a few seconds, I soon discovered a white-haired rabbit squatting motionless in the snow. It seems that this wild rabbit has also discovered danger. Chu Xiangqian pulled out a bow and arrow from his back and a sharp arrow from the game. Hold your breath, pull your bow and arrow with your fingers, and in the blink of an eye, the long arrow that was shot hit the wild rabbit before it could even jump. However, because the rabbit moved slightly, the long arrow originally aimed at its body only pierced through its hind legs. Chu Xiangqian shouted up to De Zhuang and Hong Niu, and the 2 hunting dogs instantly activated and rushed towards the injured and fleeing rabbit. The wild rabbit in December is the most plump and beautiful period. Taking the wild rabbit that the red girl bit into her mouth, she drew a long arrow and shook it in her hand. I feel like it weighs at least 3 to 4 pounds. If skinned and boned, you can probably harvest about 1.5 to 2 pounds. I casually put the wild rabbit into the storage compartment, patted the heads of De Zhuang and Red Girl, and praised them a few times before continuing with them towards the mountains. However, Chu Xiangqian did not intend to go too far this time. It was only after experiencing the blind bear's surprise attack that the fool took the risk to venture into the deep mountains. Secondly, if you go back late, it's difficult to explain to patriotism and the people. It can't be said that I woke up yesterday and became lively the next day. No matter how strong the body is, it takes 3 to 5 days to slow down without causing suspicion. After walking and stopping for another half hour, suddenly De Zhuang and Hong Niu showed an attacking attitude, and a faint growl came from their throats. Chu Xiangqian immediately realized that he had encountered a beast that was enough to make De Zhuang and Hong Niu feel dangerous. Looking left and right, Chu Xiangqian's first reaction was not to first find the beast, but to see where there were big trees nearby. When he saw a piece of poplar tree about 20 meters away, he saw a blind bear slowly walking out of the slope several tens of meters away. Chu Xiangqian recognized the blind bear at a glance, which was the one that injured his father and son a week ago. Without even thinking, draw a long arrow and pull the bowstring like a full moon with your arms. Aim at the chest of the blind bear. A swift arrow shot past. Without hesitation, the finger pulled out a long arrow again, without even looking at whether the previous arrow had hit, and pulled the bow again to shoot the arrow. At this moment, De Zhuang and Hong Niu were also shooting sharp arrows and pounced fiercely. But he was quickly stopped by Chu Xiangqian. Watching the blind bear hit 2 arrows and roared and pounced, his speed was unexpectedly slow, and he quickly understood. This black bear is not someone who has cheats like himself. Getting injured only requires eating 1 or 2 steamed buns from the game to fully recover from the injury. 8 days ago, I punctured 2 blood holes on the back of this black bear with a steel fork. When his father Chu Shan fought with it, he also left 2 blood holes in its stomach with a knife. Moreover, as it is the cold winter season, although the wound may not necessarily become inflamed, it is extremely difficult to obtain food. Bleeding and hunger. After 8 days, it can be imagined that the condition of this black bear is not that good. Because it was extremely difficult to obtain food, this black bear took the risk of venturing out of the deep mountains. It seems that if I don't go out tonight, this black bear may slip into the forest farm. Then the trouble will be big. Since I have encountered it, I will take your life while you are sick. Chu Xiangqian ran back with 2 hunting dogs, occasionally bowing and pulling arrows to shoot an arrow. In less than 3 to 5 minutes, the black bear had exhausted all its energy and was lying on the snow panting heavily. In no time, the snow was covered in blood red. On the contrary, Chu Xiangqian's physique had increased by 2 points. At most, he was just taking a few breaths, not to mention being tired, feeling like he had just warmed up. The physical strength and endurance bonus obtained by adding physical fitness through covert methods is indeed a huge advantage in snowy and mountainous environments. Holding down the restless Liuzhou red on both ends, Chu Xiangqian sneered coldly and instead continued his hind legs, staring at the black bear more than 30 meters away. This blind bear was hit by 6 arrows, and with old injuries, just bleeding and losing warmth would be enough to kill it. I don't need to take the risk of being attacked by it on the brink of death, and the hunting bow in the game has much stronger penetration due to its high pound pulling force than my previous hunting bow. Time passed by minute by second, and after waiting for more than 30 or 40 minutes, Chu Xiangqian slowly walked 10 meters, drew his bow again, and shot an arrow into the black bear's eyes. Sure enough, this black bear hasn't died completely. As he looked up, the long arrow hit his neck. Although not a single blow was fatal, it was also a fatal injury. He stood up with difficulty and roared a few words, but due to being hit by an arrow in his neck, his roar was intermittent and he kept spitting blood out of his mouth. Finally, taking 5 or 6 steps, not only did he not catch up with Chu Xiangqian who was retreating, but his physical strength could no longer support his weight. As he fell to the ground with a thud, the long arrow on his neck hit the snow and penetrated the entire neck of the black bear. Chu Xiangqian only then let the 2 hunting dogs pounce on him. Watching the black bear remain motionless even after being bitten, the resentment in Chu Xiangqian's heart suddenly dissipated. Before killing this bear, there was a deep hatred towards it. After killing it, I couldn't hate it anymore. To put it simply, humans and beasts are just trying to fill their stomachs. Glancing at the experience bar in the character panel, Chu Xiangqian shook his head helplessly. Although I was mentally prepared before, I still felt a bit regretful that I didn't gain any experience in hunting a black bear. Fortunately, upgrading to level 4 requires 400 experience, and it only takes 3 days to brush the mountain chicken in the novice village. Upgrading to level 5 only takes another 5 days. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. No need to pretend to be injured anymore. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. No need to pretend to be injured anymore. Put the bow and arrow back into the arrow pouch on your back, take out the steel fork from the storage compartment, and fiercely thrust it into the black bear's eyeballs every 2 meters. Then he turned his wrist several times. Now even if God came, the blind bear whose brain was stirred into a pot of porridge would not want to live. Put the blind bear into the storage compartment, and Chu Xiangqian immediately wanted to dig out bear bile. Unexpectedly, one of the arrows just now pierced through the bear's gallbladder. I cursed and didn't plan to talk about killing bears today. Anyway, the things in the storage compartment won't spoil. Let's wait for 2 or 3 days before entering the mountain again and carrying this black bear down the mountain. One can be considered as telling the villagers that they have already avenged their own father. Secondly, one can also take the opportunity to make some noise, which may attract the attention of leaders from forestry bureaus, supply and marketing cooperatives, and even some units in the capital. If someone comes to find me then, maybe they will see me as able to steadily obtain wild game and give me a job in the capital. This is 59 years, which happens to be the first year of the most difficult period. A stable source of game is definitely more attractive than the efficiency of 2 or 3 purchasers. Not to mention large units, even if it doesn't work out, one can still exchange for the status of a worker or purchaser in those factories in the capital. Even working as a temporary laborer is better than working as a lumberjack in the mountains. Not to mention that Chu Xiangqian was already an apprentice in the forest farm of Beishan commune after the age of 18 last year, so job transfers would be much easier. On the way back, he accidentally caught another pheasant. Chu Xiangqian took out the pheasant from the game in the storage compartment and compared it, quickly feeling relieved. It seems that the mountain chicken in the novice village is no different from those in the real world. If you really want to say the difference, it's just that the mountain chicken in the game is bigger than in reality. It weighs about 1 pound. After walking for almost an hour, when he arrived near the forest farm village, Chu Xiangqian looked at the sky as it was already late, thought for a moment, and took a detour before avoiding the people in the village and returning to his own home. As soon as I walked up the mountain slope, I faintly heard my second uncle cursing patriotism and love for the people in the yard. Chu Xiangqian shook his head, indicating that Uncle Air had returned early from the commune. When I came to see myself, I found that I was missing, so I blamed patriotism and love for the people. Chu Xiangqian hurriedly led De Zhuang and Hong Niu up the slope. I shouted Uncle Air from a distance. Seeing his nephew return, Chu He was both surprised and delighted. When Chu He walked quickly towards Chu Xiangqian, he changed his expression and started cursing at Chu Xiangqian. Chu Xiangqian showed no signs of anger at all, and it was hard to tell that Uncle Air was caring about him. After Chu He had scolded him enough, Chu Xiangqian said, "Uncle Air, I heard a dog barking today, so I went out to take a look. It has nothing to do with patriotism and loving the people." Chu He, Chu Aigua, and Chu Aimin actually noticed the two Liezhou Reds outside the door for a long time. If it weren't for these two dogs lying obediently outside the yard, Chu River might not have dared to connect with Chu and move forward. As a large dog, Liezhou Red not only has a height generally between 75 and 85 centimeters, but can also weigh 35 to 45 kilograms. This big dog is easy to deal with at first glance. Chu He's attention was indeed diverted and he looked at Chu Xiangqian, asking, "Are you just living?" Chu Xiangqian knew that Uncle Air was saying that raising two large dogs consumes a lot of food every month. Shaking his head, he said in a low voice, "If I don't kill that blind bear, I won't be able to live a good life. And if it weren't for these two dogs leading the blind bear away in the mountains, my father and I wouldn't have been able to get out of the mountain." This, Chu He looked at his nephew with a fierce light in his eyes, his heart startled, and then he felt that this was just right. The revenge of killing one's father is unforgettable. If one does not seek revenge, they are cowards. And his nephew was injured, and he carried his unconscious father on his back for more than 10 to 20 miles on a mountain road, leaving the mountains as a man. A person with this filial piety and perseverance, who gives up revenge, knows it's impossible just thinking about it. Unfortunately, when people from the same village discovered Chu Shan and Chu Xiangqian was exhausted and unconscious. Chu Shan only had time to ask his fellow villagers to take care of Chu Xiangqian, and after a few more words, he couldn't breathe. So Chu He didn't say much about Chu Xiangqian's adoption of these two Liezhou Reds. Chu He patted his nephew, who was 1 head taller than him, and sighed, "If you want revenge, you have to wait for the injury to heal. Moreover, if you want to enter the mountain again, I won't stop you, but you can wait a few more days for me. Uncle Air, Uncle Jiang and I went to the commune yesterday to sell the autumn-dried mushrooms and fungus to the supply and marketing cooperative in exchange for some coarse grain, in order to help you obtain a militia identity. We'll carry guns and go to the mountains to find that blind bear." Chu Xiangqian was taken aback and nodded gratefully as he looked at Uncle Air. "1,000 words are all remembered in my heart." Chu He didn't say much and looked at the two Liezhou Reds and asked, moving forward, "Are you sure the origins of these two dogs are okay?" Chu Xiangqian also knew that De Zhuang and Hong Niu were too strong and didn't look like they had been hungry for a long time. "Don't worry, Uncle. If anyone comes to find these two dogs, as long as they are sure that person is their owner, I will let them go." That's good." Chu He finally calmed down and then worried again that his nephew wouldn't be able to keep these two dogs alone. When searching for the black bear over the Tian Shan, there were two clearly hunting dogs following, which not only made it much safer but also made it easier to find the black bear. Thinking about it this way, keeping it for now is also a good thing. Turning to Igua, go home and bring 10 pounds of corn flour. After speaking, Chu Xiangqian thought about how he gave his family 3 yuan and 10 pounds of grain coupons today. He quickly said, "Tomorrow I will go to the commune again and help you exchange the 10 pounds of grain coupons and 3 yuan for stick noodles." Chu Xiangqian originally intended to say no, but the reality is that there is indeed not much food left at home. Otherwise, Chu Mountain wouldn't have taken him up the mountain a few days ago, and according to Chu River's instructions, going to the commune would have exchanged a lot of miscellaneous grains with dried mushrooms and fungus from the mountains. It can be seen that the end of the year is approaching, and every household is facing a shortage of food. 2 more days passed in a flash. Chu Xiangqian finally didn't need to continue pretending to be weak, and in the novice village these past few days, he killed 30 pheasants. And when De Zhuang and Hongniu help fight monsters in the game, they can actually upgrade. Not only does upgrading require the same level of experience as Chu Xiangqian, but every time he kills a mountain chicken, he also gains 10 points of experience. After 2 days, I successfully upgraded to level 3. Adding some strength and agility to both dogs, Chu Xiangqian did not fully improve his physique. Liezhou Red, level 3. Physical fitness 1.2, strength 0.7 plus 1, agility 1.5 plus 1. It can be said that if these 2 dogs were hunting in the mountains and forests, they should already be able to fight against the black bear, and even work together to kill the black bear. The daily appetite only requires eating the internal organs of 15 pheasants. As for the pheasants and rabbits that were caught in the mountains the day before yesterday, they all went into Chu Xiangqian's stomach. And probably due to the increased physical strength, the appetite has also increased significantly compared to before. It's time to go into the mountain again and take out the black bear, while also serving as a cover for the source of mountain chickens in the novice village. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. 007 Acting, Seeking to Collect Monthly Tickets, Follow Up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7007 Acting, Seeking to Collect Monthly Tickets, Follow Up. Early in the morning, patriotism and love for the people followed the instructions given yesterday, carrying a basket and running to the hillside to find Chu Xiangqian. He handed the 4 sticks of noodles and flour mixed with the mantu made of 2 kinds of noodles to the patriotic people. The 2 boys didn't refuse this time, hurriedly took it and put it in their mouths to eat. Moreover, the 2 of them helped Chu Qian to make the mantu of noodles yesterday afternoon. Last night, they finally had enough to eat, and the price was to follow them into the mountain today. Patriotic while eating, he said, "Brother, can we come back tonight, otherwise we can't hide from my father and mother." The nearby Imin also nodded hastily upon hearing these words. Chu Xiangqian smiled and lightly patted the heads of the 2. It's easy to deceive half a big kid in secret. If it were my second uncle, don't worry about being extravagant, he would definitely not accompany me up the mountain. Don't worry, your brother and I will not die in a major disaster, and there will be good fortune. After the injury is healed this time, I feel that not only has my body become stronger, but my eyesight has also improved significantly. Patriotism and love for the people were taken aback, feeling like my older brother was talking nonsense, but he didn't say it out loud. And in order to eat meat, some doubts were immediately suppressed in my heart. The example of Chu Xiangqian walking out of the deep mountains with his injuries on his back also made the 2 brothers have little doubt about Chu Xiangqian's words. Besides, yesterday we agreed to just go a few miles into the mountains and try our luck, specifically staring at the pheasants and rabbits. Otherwise, although they were easy to deceive, they wouldn't dare to follow Chu towards the deep mountains. Carrying bows and arrows, steel forks, and 2 hunting dogs, they first went to the place where their father was buried and lit 3 cigarettes to worship before entering the mountain. After walking for half an hour, De Zhuang and Hongniu discovered a pheasant standing on a poplar tree. Patriotism and love for the people were busy lying on the snow, their eyes filled with anticipation as they watched Chu move forward. They calmly took a detour and pulled out the hunting bow from their arrow pouch 20 meters behind the pheasant. Hold your breath and shoot the mountain chicken down from the tree with an arrow. 2 hunting dogs immediately pounced on them. Chu Xiangqian casually threw the wild chicken in De Zhuang's mouth to Patriot and asked him to put it in a basket. The 2 young boys didn't seem to have been up the mountain for long, but they really hit their prey and their mouths were crooked with smiles. The secret elder brother may not have really boasted, this accurate head looks much stronger than before. As soon as Chu Xiangqian thought of having both of them carry baskets, the 2 brothers began to look forward to being able to carry several pheasants or rabbits alone when they returned home. Even if you keep it and don't eat it, you can exchange it for food in the commune, and you can still get a family's rations for many days. And just following the big brother on the mountain road can help alleviate the burden on the family, which is exciting for the 2 brothers. Chu Xiangqian's expression towards the 2 of them was clear and clear. Thinking with a smile, 2 silly kids, really thought there could be so many pheasants and rabbits in this mountain. Even if it does exist, it must be in the deep mountains. After walking for half an hour with the 2 of them, Chu Xiangqian arrived at the place he had chosen yesterday morning and patted the heads of De Zhuang and Hongniu. The 2 hunting dogs, like those trained in the novice village last night, lay on the ground, revealing their fangs and roaring softly. Suddenly frightened, patriotic people squatted down. The children in the mountains all learned some hunting skills to some extent, and hurriedly said to Chu Xiangqian, who was on high alert, "Big brother, the big reaction of the 2 dogs is likely to be a big deal." The timid whispered directly, "Big brother, let's go." If it were a wild boar, bows and arrows wouldn't be very useful. Chu Xiangqian was amused in his heart, as De Zhuang and Hongniu had all arranged their performances just now. The purpose is to take out the blind bear that was hunted the day before yesterday. Nod with a serious expression on your face. Wild boars are actually the most difficult to hunt, with a thick layer of mud mixed with resin to form a protective layer on their bodies, making it difficult for bows and arrows to penetrate. Do you 2 remember a big tree that was half held by a person behind you? Patriotism and love for the people nodded hastily. When he came over earlier, Chu Xiangqian even made a few special remarks, saying that the tree was not only thick enough, but also easy for people to climb up. It's perfect for avoiding beasts. You step back and climb up that tree. I have De Zhuang and Hongniu here. Even if you encounter tigers or blind bears, there is still a chance to retreat. If it is impossible, I will run to meet you. When the time comes, we will hide in the tree and shoot with bows and arrows, tie with steel forks, and even the tiger will die. Patriotism and love for the people thought for a moment, then quickly nodded and stood up, slowly retreating. After walking more than 10 meters, there was still no movement, and De Zhuang and Hongniu kept staring at the poplar forest ahead, indicating that the thing was still in the forest. I just turned around and ran. After flying for 5 or 6 minutes, the 2 finally climbed the big tree. They wanted to see Chu moving forward, but found that their line of sight was blocked by a hill. Immediately, it was faintly heard that De Zhuang and Hongniu began barking wildly. "Patriotic brother," said with a tremble of fear, "why don't we go down and help?" "Don't act recklessly," Patriot pulled his people and said, "we're going to be a hindrance, and the dog is still barking. Big brother should be fine." The 2 of them were blowing a cold wind on the tree, anxiously waiting for about half an hour. They wanted to run down the tree, but because the barking of the dog never stopped, they could only continue to wait. After spending countless days like a year, I don't know how long it was before I finally heard the voice of Chu Xiangqian. The 2 of them climbed down the tree without even thinking, and quickly ran towards the place where the sound came from. Not long after, Chu Xiang appeared in sight with a steel fork in front of him. And further away, De Zhuang and Hongniu were guarding a pitch-black figure. Big brother," Patriot asked with fear and excitement, "is that big guy a bear blind?" Chu Xiangqian smiled and nodded, "Not only the blind bear, but also the one that hurt me and my father back then." "Great, great." Patriotic first took a few breaths, then jumped up with joy. As Chu approached, he saw a sharp arrow piercing through the neck of the black bear. And there are at least 6 or 7 sharp arrows inserted into the bear's body. In the gaze of Chu Xiangqian, besides carrying admiration, the two of them also had a faint fear of Chu Xiangqian. The story of one person and 2 dogs using bows, arrows, and steel forks to kill a black bear in the cold winter was the first time the 2 brothers had heard of it. Don't think you can kill a bear alone with a bow, arrow, or steel fork in your hand. The black bear in December not only has thick enough hair, but also a very thick layer of fat on its body after a continuous autumn of eating and drinking. Otherwise, one cannot resist the entire winter hibernation. A bow and arrow with less tension can cause skin damage to black bears. Even with a shotgun, most of the time, it is necessary to aim at the heart first in order to achieve a decisive blow. If he can't kill with just one strike, this guy will run like a tank. The speed is also much faster than that of humans, and the endurance also surpasses humans. Of course, if you have the Type 56 semi-automatic rifle in hand, as long as you are not nervous and have received shooting training. Whether he is a bear or a tiger, he will die. It was only last year that the Chinese government completely withdrew from the Northern Court, and a large number of retired firearms had not yet been distributed to the armed militia. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. 008 Self-Promotion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8008 Self-Promotion. The entire forest farm village only has 3 center-length rifles handed over to the militia and forest rangers for use. As for the short guns hidden among the people, I really don't know how many there are. In Chu Xiangqian's memory, Uncle Air had a refuting spear. Patriotism and love for the people, seeing Chu Xiangqian stunned, thought he was thinking of Uncle Chu Shan who had already been killed by this blind bear. He quickly shifted his attention and asked, "Big brother, how can we luck this blind bear to come down the mountain?" Chu Xiangqian regained his senses and casually handed the steel fork to Patriot. He drew out his hunting knife from his waist and chopped down a poplar tree thicker than his wrist. "You two have dismantled a new basket, tied the blind bear's front and back legs, and we will lift it back." Chu Igua and Imin nodded hastily and soon dismantled a basket. "Tie the black bear's front and back legs with green vines, and the 2 of them lift the front end of the stick together. Chu Xiangqian carries the back end of the stick alone, and together they lift the black bear down the mountain. As we approached the forest farm village, we were so tired of patriotism and love for the people that we lay on the snow." Looking back at Chu Xiangqian, who was just panting but didn't show signs of fatigue, the 2 of them truly believed that their elder brother's strength and stamina had become much stronger than before. Although Chu Xiangqian has always added all upgrade points to his physical fitness, adding 1 point to his physical fitness can also increase his strength by 0.2. His strength has reached 1.1 plus 0.4 at this time. 1.5 times the strength of an adult male is already considered an athlete level. Compared to 2 half-grown boys who often struggle to eat enough and lack nutrition, that's a Hercules. After resting for 7 or 8 minutes, Chu Xiangqian shook his head helplessly when he saw that the 2 boys were still exhausted and powerless. It seemed that he was hungry. After thinking for a moment, I picked up the sturdy black bear and tried to carry it on my shoulders. It's just that it can be carried, and Chu Xiangqian only walked 20.30 meters before having to throw the black bear down. It's not that I can't carry it, it's really difficult to walk in the snow. Fortunately, the recovery ability was quite good. In just a few dozen breaths, the slightly sore arm recovered. And the patriotic people who followed on the side finally breathed a sigh of relief. If Big Brother could carry a black bear weighing around 300 pounds alone and walk calmly in the snow, he would truly become a monster. As for why Chu Xiangqian was able to carry the black bear, the 2 brothers were not too surprised. In this era, although people eat very little meat and may not even have enough to eat, there are indeed many people who carry 200 kilograms of millet on their shoulders as usual. During the construction period, there were also rumors that someone carried 400 pounds and walked 2 miles. I was about to say that I would go back to the village to call someone, but I saw Chu Xiangqian lifting the black bear again. Not enough strength to make do. As long as it is carried, the need for strength is not significant. On the contrary, it is more about the expenditure of endurance, and also requires certain skills. Chu Xiangqian walked over 100 meters this time, only then did he leave the black bear in the snow. And by now, it was only 1 mile away from the forest farm village. Carrying a basket of love for the people and holding a steel fork for patriotism, this time without Chu Xiangqian speaking, he ran to the village and called out for help. Just when they called out a dozen or so men, Chu Xiangqian had already carried the black bear again and walked step by step to a distance of more than 10 meters outside the village. Everyone was shocked to see him carrying a big black bear on his back. A few timid women came out to see the lively scene, and after seeing it clearly, they were so scared that they called out, "God!" Chu Xiangqian gritted his teeth and walked 2 meters away from Uncle Air and others. With a force from his shoulders and arms, he threw the black bear onto the muddy ground outside the village, splashing a puddle of mud and water. Under the gaze of everyone, he gritted his teeth and said, "Second uncle, I have avenged my father." As soon as these words were spoken, dozens of people present felt a chill rushing straight to their heads. The only thought in everyone's hearts at this moment is to never provoke this big kid from the Chu family in the future. Otherwise, with his courage and persistence in killing bears, who knows what he will do if he retaliates. Not to mention that this kid almost survived his injury 10 days ago, but it was only 10 days before he went up the mountain again and really killed this black bear, and even carried it back. Several households with the same surname as Chu were excited in their hearts. While rural areas are simple, they are actually very practical and simple. Families with more sons can speak louder. If my own son is more powerful, basically no one will provoke this family. He held back his excitement and tears, grabbing Chu Xiangqian's arm with both hands and saying, okay, big brother can also feel at ease in the heavenly spirit. Chu Xiangqian smiled and nodded, while the others quickly gathered around. Move forward, your old Chu family is quite famous this time. Right. Not to mention the entire capital city, I've never heard of anyone alone going up the mountain to kill a black bear in all these years in the north. That's right, it's still in the cold winter. The blind bear who comes down the mountain is even more fierce. After a lively moment, everyone carried the bear into the village and took out a large scale used to weigh the big pig. Someone immediately exclaimed in shock, 326 pounds, this is a big bear. Someone immediately squatted down to inspect the black bear and said with regret, unfortunately, bear bile was shot through with a forward arrow. Otherwise, just bear bile could have been sold for 100 or 200 yuan. Chu Xiangqian also felt regretful in his heart, and then thought that 10 days ago, the weight of this black bear would definitely exceed 350 or 360 pounds. After losing a large amount of blood twice and not eating much for 7 or 8 days, my weight rapidly decreased while my physical strength and endurance naturally reached their lowest point. I was easily killed by myself just 2 days ago. In an instant, Chu Xiangqian suddenly felt that he couldn't fully improve his physical fitness. At least 1 or 2 points of agility need to be added. As for power, in this era with firearms, power is 1.5 times that of a normal person, which is actually enough. Not to mention adding more physical fitness in the future, 1 point can still add 0.2 strength and 0.2 agility. And with twice the agility, it may not necessarily have twice the running speed of an ordinary person, but as long as it can run faster than a black bear, wild wolf, or a tiger over short distances, it is enough. I can meet you, and in the future, I will definitely go up the mountain frequently. Although 15 mountain chickens can be refreshed every day in the novice village, if you don't want to arouse suspicion from others, you can't just take out the mountain chickens. It's best to mix it with wild rabbits, geese, ducks, and the like to be normal. If you encounter a black bear or even a tiger when entering the mountain, your running speed may not be fast enough, and even with more physical fitness, you will still be blind. Even though wearing level 3 light armor and having a much stronger defense, Chu Xiangqian dared not challenge tigers and black bears to experiment with how strong his defense was. After weighing the black bear, Uncle Air didn't wait for anyone else to speak before saying to Chu Xiangqian, "Forward, Uncle will help you transport this bear to the commune and exchange it for food and tickets." How about that? Chu Xiangqian was overjoyed in his heart. No matter how famous he was in the forest farm village, it was just that no one would bully him. But if this black bear were transported to the commune, not only would Chongping soon know its name. The resentment between this bear and the father-son pair will also spread widely in the capital. And you don't have to worry about other 20 households in the same village coming over to take advantage. But within a few seconds of this thought, he felt that he should treat him alone. During the burial period of my own father, besides the Chu family, other villagers also made efforts. I should repay this favor myself. P.S. The book has been signed and you can invest with confidence. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Preparation for entering the city. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Preparation for entering the city. Although Chu Xiangqian knew about his own father's affairs and it was his second uncle who really helped, the other villagers did help, so this favor must be remembered. And defining whether someone has taken advantage of it is actually quite simple. The most unacceptable thing is that there is no return on investment. Friends and colleagues treat each other to meals, as long as they come and go. Please, one more time, one less time, few people will remember so clearly. If I don't express anything this time, not only will no one in the same village help me in the future. When Uncle Air helps him retrieve the food and receipts he exchanged for with the black bear, there will inevitably be people jealous and thinking of bad things. And just hitting a black bear can still be described as luck. But if I go up the mountain again in the afternoon and bring back some pheasants and rabbits, then in the eyes of the leaders, they are the people who are useful to them. Uncle Air, I won't go to the commune this afternoon. After lunch, I'll go to the mountains and fetch some wild chickens and rabbits. Please have a meal with the heads of each family, which can be considered as a token of gratitude for everyone's help in taking care of my father's affairs. The people around me were immediately happy when they heard these words. I secretly thought that this young man from the Chu family, who survived the disaster, could be considered sensible. Chu, he patted Chu's arm forward and said, "Okay, we really should treat everyone to a meal." But as the saying goes, Chu River doesn't believe that Chu Xiangqian can really reach enough wild game for more than 20 male owners to eat. With this black bear in secret, besides being able to help my nephew obtain the identity of a militia, I might even become a forest ranger. Then use the exchanged grain and receipts, buy 2 or 3 pounds of meat, and pack 3 or 5 in large pots at night. If there is a bit of meat in the cabbage and radish, it should be enough. As for alcohol, it's natural to buy around 10 pounds, and bulk alcohol without a ticket is enough. When the people around him dispersed, Chu Xiangqian pulled his second uncle and whispered, "Uncle, please help me invite some officials from the commune this afternoon." Chu, he was taken aback for a moment, and then he heard Chu whispering to him, "Now that food is starting to be scarce, although wild game is not as delicious as big fat pigs, it is also meat. Maybe I can go to the city." Because of this at first, Chu, he was happy, but after thinking for a few seconds, he felt that Chu Xiangqian was dizzy. Not to mention the danger of entering the mountains, wild game is not so easy to hunt. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many old hunters and they would often go hungry. Moreover, mountain roads are difficult to walk, and the range that a normal person can walk every day is actually very limited. No one can guarantee that every time they climb the mountain, they will reap rewards. But Chu Xiangqian is different. He doesn't need to walk too far. Going out for a walk would be the best way to catch the game. I didn't get it, so why not recharge with the mountain chicken from the novice village? Even if there are only 1 or 2 at a time, it is meaningless for the unit. For some food-loving leaders, that is talent. Even if you don't eat it yourself, using it to invite leaders familiar to your sister units can not only deepen relationships, but also make it easier to obtain scarce materials when there is a need in the future. Every month, there are around 7 to 8 or 10 pheasants and rabbits, which are exchanged for 27 to 8 or even 30 yuan per month, and there are fixed grain jobs in the capital. It's a good deal no matter what. More importantly, only by entering the city can one have more opportunities to come into contact with antiques to collect game vouchers. Chu Xiangqian vaguely felt that the key to leaving the novice village was definitely related to antiques. He couldn't persuade Chu Xiangqian and could only try to say, I can't hire cadres and leaders from the commune, but there's no problem with cadres from the forest farm and supply and marketing cooperative. Chu Xiangqian is not disappointed either. After all, it is meaningless to force his second uncle to do what he cannot do. Uncle, you keep an eye on it, Chu Xiangqian chuckled. I don't know if he broke through his limits when he forcibly brought my father back. After the body is supported and the injury is healed, it feels like the whole person is reborn. Not only has strength and endurance become stronger, but vision has also increased significantly. On the way back carrying the blind bear today, I saw more than 7 or 8 pheasants and rabbits. After hearing this, he was overjoyed. If his nephew could enter the city, adventure would not be unacceptable at all. To be honest, the casualty rate of lumberjacks is actually not low. One is to take risks and have the opportunity to enter the city, and the better it can be crossed. One is that in the future, I don't know when, but a negligence can lead to injury and death. And once something really happens, the whole family will be destroyed. Everyone knows how to choose. As for Chu Xiangqian's claim that he had become stronger after a serious illness, he didn't pay much attention. To put it plainly, this is a trade of life. Pat Chu's arm forward and say, then be careful. Don't worry, Chu Xiangqian chuckled. There are 2 hunting dogs around, nothing will happen. He nodded and pondered for a few seconds. Follow me home. Entering Uncle Air's house, I saw that Uncle Air's second child Chu Eileen and third girl Chu Aichio were not around. Just thinking about it, I knew that these 2 little guys must have gone to see Big Bear like the other children. After greeting Aunt Air, who was cooking over the fire, Uncle Air brought her into the room. In no time, a well-maintained shell gun arrived in his hands. He couldn't help but sigh when he saw him take it and said, I have asked your father to bring this gun into the mountains several times in recent years, but he thinks that the short gun is not powerful enough and its killing effect on wild boars is not as good as a steel fork. Moreover, if the sound is too loud, it may cause avalanches in winter. But if he had brought this gun back then, maybe he could have saved his life. Chu Xiangqian, excitedly holding a real gun, fell silent after listening. In fact, the power of the Mauser C96 is already quite impressive, but no matter how powerful the short gun is, it is still far inferior to a rifle. However, Uncle Air was not wrong. If he had a gun in hand before, he might not have been able to kill that black bear with just a few shots. But the sound of gunfire is highly likely to scare the blind bear away by shooting towards the sky when the black bear first appears. Of course, it could also be that the black bear was shot a few times and was completely angered first, biting and killing Chu Shan on the spot. Chu Xiangqian didn't take Chu's words either, so he withdrew the rifle from the holster and carried it on his back, covering it with clothes. Put the small bag containing many bullets into the pocket of the wolfskin cloak. He saw him withdraw his gun and didn't say anything more. The 2 of them left the room, and Chu Xiangqian went to help Aunt Air cook. Aunt Air is an ordinary rural woman, but she has always been good at Chu Xiangqian. This may be related to when Chu Shan, who was the eldest brother when he first married his second uncle, gave his aunt's family 4 large oceans and 10 pounds of white flour as a dowry. Of course, if Uncle Air cannot support the whole family on his own, Aunt Air, as a mother, cannot take care of her eldest nephew. Only when you are full will you talk about family and etiquette. Chu Xiangqian only ate 2 steamed buns, drank a bowl of millet and sweet potato congee, and then put down the bowl. Seeing this, the second uncle asked the second aunt to add another bowl of millet porridge for him. In the big bowl on the table again, he took a steamed bun and placed it next to his chopsticks. Chu hurriedly waved his hand forward. It was really good to have a meal of millet and sweet potato congee occasionally, but he had to eat wawatu all the time. And these days, coming to visit and providing enough food is already very hospitable. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. True Hunting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. True Hunting. Even if the siblings come to visit, they either bring their own staple food such as steamed buns or give them food vouchers. It's not that we don't talk about family ties, but that everyone's monthly food is a fixed amount. In the wages of various professions across the country, there are varying degrees of income, but food is strictly limited. Even if you are a big shot in the department, your monthly rations are only about 30 pounds. As for the hidden benefits, let's talk about it separately. Not giving food vouchers at home is like grabbing food from the owner's mouth. He advised several times and saw that Chu Xiangqian seemed to be really full, so he could only put the steamed bun in his hand into the little girl's bowl. Although Chu Xiangqian is only 5 years old, his appetite is not small. A bowl of congee and a wawatu were all eaten in a few minutes. Patriotic and 12-year-old Chu Xiangqian could only watch eagerly as his younger sister smiled and took the steamed bun handed over by her biological father. Chu Xiangqian rubbed his patriotic head, intending to say that he was not promising, but the greasy palm of his hand suddenly made him lose the mood to speak. After dinner, I secretly sniffed myself, as if it was not as good as patriotism. I didn't feel it before, but now I realize that I haven't taken a shower for at least 10 days, and immediately feel like my whole body is covered in smell. Even the more I think about it, the more I feel itching on my body. It's just during the cold winter season, it's troublesome to take a hot shower. Then I thought of a small fountain outside the village center of the novice village. Before leaving Uncle Air's house, Chu Xiangqian took 2 liang of grain coupons to Aunt Air. Aunt Air accepted it without much hesitation. In the past, Chu Shan and Chu Xiangqian's father and son had come to eat at their doorstep quite a few times, always giving them food vouchers or bringing their own staple food. Watching the second uncle and cousin Chu Jiang drive the carriage used to transport wood, he left the village with the black bear and went to the commune. Chu Xiangqian refused the request to love the country and the people, as well as several of his peers to go up the mountain together. With a bow and arrow on his back, holding a steel fork, he climbed the mountain again under the gaze of adults and children. As soon as he walked away, everyone began to discuss. Do you think the young man from the Chu family can catch enough game for over 20 people to eat this time? I see, if it were so easy to hunt, those few men in the village who are not inferior in skills to their father Chu Shan would not hide at home. Fortunately, there were many discussions, even those with broken mouths, but no one was suspicious. The forest farm is not large, with only about 20 households, and it is a working-class family that only gathered after the founding of the People's Republic of China. Everyone used to have no grudges, but on weekdays they only need to go up the mountain to cut wood, and there is basically no place to settle grudges in their work. On the contrary, there are occasional people who fail to complete their monthly tasks and still need help from their fellow villagers. In this situation, the number of times we help each other far exceeds the number of conflicts. And humans are actually very contradictory. The more difficult the environment, the more united it is. The forest farm is built in the mountains, and there is no suitable place to cultivate land. All living materials rely on external transportation, and the villagers still have a strong sense of crisis. This actually makes everyone intentionally embrace each other. So some old ladies may not speak well, but no one maliciously wants to see Chu Xiangqian get into trouble. I want to refute the patriotic sentiment, but I feel embarrassed to argue with others. Only Aichio, the little girl, swallowed her saliva and asked Patriot, "Brother, can you really give me meat to eat at night? Patriotic glared at his younger sister angrily, and the mountain chicken he caught in the morning was now hidden in his own house. Big Brother agreed, just take it as a thank you to himself and I mean for taking care of them for so many days. And in the future, I will often take myself and my loved ones to the mountains for hunting. If it's because of Love Autumn's big mouth, letting others know that they're eating mountain chicken tonight and attracting others to come over, then I'll have to eat less. I didn't know, but since Big Brother knows how to hunt, there will definitely be meat to eat in the future, he said, quickly picking up Ichio nodded blankly and was carried back home by Igua. However, before leaving, Igua blinked his eyes with Imean, gesturing for him to come home and eat mountain chicken at night. Imean chuckled and nodded slightly as if nothing had happened, but he didn't want to be seen by his sister Chu Yuan. Speaking of which, the three brothers Chu Shan, Chu He, and Chu Jiang are actually very petty thieves. Except for Chu Xiangqian's name, patriotism and love for the people were all changed after the founding of the country. Even Chu's aid was initially from Yuan, not from the aid. After Chu Yuan and his beloved people returned home with a smile, they immediately grabbed this kid and began questioning him. If you don't say it, just get started and give it a beating. Of course, at first Chu Yuan thought that he loved his country and the people and wanted to secretly follow his elder brother Chu towards the mountains. But I didn't want to hear that my older brother had beaten a mountain chicken in the morning and planned to eat it at Uncle Air's house tonight. He just called me Imean but didn't call himself, so he immediately quit. If you don't call me in secret, I can't come to your door by myself. Imean, who had been beaten up for a while, could only mutter on the side, looking like a man's wife, to see how you will get married in the future. Chu Yuanchang is actually pretty good, but after staying in a place like Linchang village for 6 or 7 years, he has long been taught some tigers by the 7 or 8 northeast Andes in the same village. Even at the age of 18, it's 19 for the Chinese New Year, and I've seen several of my mother-in-law's houses turn yellow. In addition, Chu Zhang's wife died of illness before the founding of the country, and Chu Yuan, who was in a state of herding sheep, was indeed a bit aggressive. This is actually easy to understand. It's not that impressive. Chu Yuan, who is with a younger brother, will definitely be bullied by other children in the village. Even with the big brother Chu Xiangqian, it's actually not very useful. Chu Xiang advanced towards the back of the mountain, taking De Zhuang and Hongniu towards the shelter where he and his father used to go. Arrived at the place, he immediately flashed into the novice village. Regardless of whether one's entire body of mud has contaminated the fountain in the center of the village. I took a comfortable shower, and it's better to stay in the beginner's village to maintain a comfortable temperature for the body. Clean yourself up and lie in the fountain pool for a while, thinking about whether to wash your upper and lower underwear. But I saw that the mud and dirt I had rubbed off my body before disappeared with the water flow. Chu Xiangqian was immediately overjoyed, wondering if this fountain had an automatic cleaning function. Will it also automatically rinse clean if I leave my clothes in the sink? Just think of it and do it. After more than 10 minutes, I picked up my wet clothes and smelled them. I immediately felt that not only was there no smell on the clothes, but there was also a faint fragrance. Chu Xiangqian was overjoyed, but he quickly realized it. Bringing its own fragrance is indeed good, but the taste in the wild is troublesome. And after returning to the village, it is easy to explain whether there is any odor on the body, but the clothes dried up in the afternoon, making it difficult to explain. Fortunately, the wolf fur coat and long woolen boots are still there, which not only cannot be washed with water, but also become warmer and softer as they pass through. As for the taste, just keep warm. Hang wet underwear in a blacksmith's shop and use an endless hydraulic blower to blow it. In just over 10 minutes, it was all done. Chu Xiangqian then left the novice village with Dazhuang and Hongniu, and began to search for prey seriously. The first choices are naturally rabbits, roe deer, and wild boars. Encountering a pheasant, I will definitely not let it go. After walking for over an hour, Chu Xiangqian shook his head helplessly as the sky turned around 3 o'clock. I was thinking of going back and trying to hit a rabbit with ease. But unexpectedly, De Zhuang and Hongniu suddenly lowered their bodies and took small steps towards the hill over 100 meters ahead. End of this chapter.